What's the creepiest thing you have experienced but nobody believes you when you tell them? I don't have solid memories of this story, but my mom does, so I will use that. Nobody believes either one of us. When I was a toddler, my dad would deliver products from his store to people after we closed. Usually mom and I would tag along for the ride. Once he delivered an order on a military facility that was closed off to the public and kind of high security, so he had to park at a specific area in the facility and carry the products to a building about 20 minutes walking distance, accompanied by a military person. Me and mom stayed at the car. I was bored and asked my mom if I could go and play with some puppies I saw close by. Now my mom is usually smart, but she had an incredibly stupid moment there. Why would puppies be in the facility? Also, why let a toddler go there alone? Well, she did. When my dad and a military lady got back and asked where I was, my mom said I went to play with the puppies and, as my mom says, color drained from the military lady's face. She explained that the only dogs in the facility were only let out of their chains in the night and trained to kill. I don't know why someone would train the dogs like that, but it was early 90s after all. They ran to the dogs area expecting to find me injured if they were lucky, but instead they found me cuddling with the dogs. The military lady called for the dog's handler to get me out of the dogs area safe, but the dogs didn't let anyone come near me. As my mom says, they kept me surrounded and growled at anyone who tried to get close to me. At some point I decided I wanted to leave, and after petting the dogs they let me pass and walk to my mom myself. It was one of the scariest experiences for her, and she is still kind of scared of dogs. Nobody ever believed this story. It was not anything paranormal, but it was weird and scary for both my parents. As for me, I still love dogs and have yet to meet one that won't let me pet it. Another story. I don't know if this counts or not, but here goes. I was asleep in bed, had a real vivid dream. It wasn't lucid, but I remember it clearly. In the dream I was on a plane, sat next to the aisle. We hit turbulence, and at that moment the hostess was passing by. Then the plane violently dropped what felt like a long way for a second or two. During this time the hostess had hit the ceiling and landed next to me. I grabbed her hand and looked in her eyes. It was clear that this was not normal and she was frightened. Then without warning, ahead of me the plane exploded. In this instance time slowed to an almost complete halt, and I watched as flames engulfed the seats, people, in front of me, and as they began to take my legs I remember my final thought: so this is what death feels like. That was pretty bad, but the next bit is what still weird me out when I think about it to this day. As soon as I finished that thought, I woke up immediately, except I was lying across my bed as opposed to the normal way. I never move much in my sleep, so this was extremely disconcerting as I had in essence rotated 90 degrees. But the creepiest bit was that in that moment of waking, it felt like three heavily cloaked figures who were around me and looming over me all took a step back and disappeared. I have to be honest and allow myself to understand that coming out of a dream means that this could all have been part of it, though I was definitely 90 degrees round, and I didn't see these figures, but I understood them to be there, and I felt the presence enough to have an internal vision of at least their form and their movements. In all honesty, it was like death had come for me, death in this instance being three figures, as I had sent some sort of I just died signal from the dream. Then when I woke up the deaths thought, oh, he's not dead, and backed off. Either way, this is the creepiest thing I have ever had happen to me.